In the heart of Chuku, a quaint village nestled amidst the rolling hills and lush greenery of Africa, two girls were born under the same moonlit sky. Ifeoma and Amara entered the world mere weeks apart, their cries echoing through the thatched huts as if announcing a destiny intertwined from the very beginning. From their earliest days, the two were inseparable. They toddled through the dusty paths of the village, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves and the distant calls of birds. The villagers often remarked on their closeness, noting how they moved in harmony, like two halves of the same soul. Ifeoma possessed a beauty that seemed almost otherworldly. Her skin glowed with the richness of fresh palm oil, her eyes sparkled with mischief and kindness, and her smile could light up even the gloomiest day. Wherever she went, people turned to admire her, whispering praises and blessings. Amara, on the other hand, was the quieter of the two, her beauty more subtle but no less captivating. She had a gentle demeanor, a thoughtful gaze, and a heart full of dreams. Their days were filled with shared adventures. They climbed mango trees, their hands sticky with the sweet juice as they giggled and teased each other. They played by the river, splashing water and chasing fish, their laughter echoing across the water. Under the shade of the ancient udala tree, they wove tales of fantasy and wonder, dreaming of the lives they would one day lead. At the bustling village market, they were a familiar sight. They would dart between stalls, their eyes wide with curiosity, their voices rising in playful banter. "When I grow up, I'll buy the biggest fish head," Amara would declare, puffing up with pride. "Tufikwa, I'll buy the entire fish seller's table," Ifeoma would retort, flipping her hand dramatically. The fish sellers would shake their heads, laughing at the girls' antics, their hearts warmed by the innocence and joy they exuded. Their bond was unbreakable, their friendship a beacon of light in the village. They shared everything: clothes, food, secrets, and dreams. They walked to school hand in hand, their voices rising in song as they made up tunes and lyrics, their imaginations running wild. On cold evenings, they would huddle under old wrappers, whispering their hopes and fears into the darkness. "One day, we'll both wear big shoes and walk like city women," Ifeoma would say, her eyes shining with ambition. "And we'll eat chicken every Sunday," Amara would add, licking her lips in anticipation. As they grew older, their paths remained intertwined. Both girls gained admission into Sacred Heart Girls' College, a prestigious boarding school far from their village. It was their first time leaving home, and a mix of fear and excitement danced within them as they packed their belongings into old tin boxes. Upon arrival, they chose bunk beds side by side, Ife on the top, Amara on the bottom. At night, they would whisper across the room, sharing stories and dreams, their voices a comforting presence in the unfamiliar surroundings. They defended each other from bullies, shared their food during fasting days, and comforted each other when homesickness struck. During school holidays, they returned to Umuchuku, parading their tiny suitcases like celebrities, their dreams growing wings with each passing day. After graduation, they both applied to university, their aspirations now taking concrete forms. Amara dreamed of becoming a banker, envisioning herself in sleek suits and high-rise offices. Ifeoma aspired to be a great lawyer, determined to fight for justice and make a difference. They filled out application forms with trembling hands, shared prayers at night, and waited anxiously for the letters that would change their lives. The results arrived with much fanfare. Amara's name was read aloud at the village square she had been accepted. The entire village celebrated, with palm wine flowing, drums beating, and old women ululating with joy. But Ifeoma's name was not on the list. There was no letter for her, no cheers, only silence. She smiled bravely when Amara hugged her tightly, whispering words of comfort. "Don't cry, Ify. You'll get yours too," Amara said. "I am happy for you," Ifeoma replied, her voice trembling. That night, under the silent stars, Ifeoma wept bitter tears into her pillow, questioning what she had done wrong. Unbeknownst to her, a dark secret loomed. Amara's mother, consumed by jealousy and a desire to see her daughter shine, had gone behind Ifeoma's back. She had bribed an official to remove Ifeoma's name from the admission list, believing that it was time for her own daughter to bask in the spotlight. Amara left for the city, her head held high, dreams soaring. Ifeoma stayed behind, her heart torn but her spirit unbroken. She decided to learn tailoring, channeling her dreams into fabric and thread. Months later, Amara invited her to visit the university campus. Ifeoma arrived, her simple beauty shining like a hidden gem. Her smile lit up the surroundings, drawing the attention of students and passers-by. That very day, Michael, a kind-hearted young man, approached her shyly, complimenting her beauty. Ifeoma laughed, a sound like water flowing over smooth stones. Michael asked for her number, and from the shadows Amara watched, the seed of jealousy taking root once more. That night, Amara whispered lies into Michael's ears, casting doubt on Ifeoma's character. Soon, the warmth between Michael and Ifeoma dissipated, leaving her confused and hurt. Amara's heart, already darkened by secrets and envy, grew heavier. Years passed. Amara completed her studies, but life in the city proved challenging. No lucrative job offers came, and her dreams began to wither. She returned to Umu Chukwu, bitter and broken. Meanwhile, Ifeoma's small tailoring shop blossomed. Bright colors, beautiful dresses, and happy customers filled her life. One afternoon, Amara visited Ifeoma's shop, forcing a smile as she complimented her friend's success. Despite the past, Ifeoma welcomed Amara with open arms, offering her a place in the business. Amara nodded, but inside she still wrestled with envy. That night, Amara's mother reignited the flames of jealousy, whispering lies and urging her daughter to reclaim the spotlight. Together, they sought out a feared native doctor, who provided them with a potion to diminish Ifeoma's beauty and success. Amara's hands trembled as she agreed to the plan. She invited Ifeoma to a quiet birthday celebration, where she served her the tainted drink. Unaware of the betrayal, Ifeoma drank, trusting her friend implicitly. The sun dipped behind the acacia trees, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across the dusty paths of Umu Chukwu and into the hearts of those who walked them. Ifeoma, her belly full of dreams and laughter, had always trusted that the world would remain as it had always been, safe, bright, and filled with the warmth of friendship. But in the quiet moments after the birthday celebration at Amara's rented room, a darkness had begun to creep into the edges of her world, unnoticed. Amara watched Ifeoma sip from the cup she had so carefully prepared, her smile tight, her heart a battlefield of guilt and jealousy. She tried to ignore the tremble in her own hands as she handed Ifeoma the drink, telling herself that she was only doing what was necessary to reclaim her place in the sun. "You've always been the star," she whispered inside her head. "Now it's my turn to shine." For days after the small birthday gathering, Ifeoma felt fine, at least, on the outside. She returned to her little tailoring shop, greeting her customers with the same bright smile, measuring fabrics, and sharing designs that brought color to the lives of so many women in the village. She hummed old songs as her needle danced across bright kaitenja cloth. But in the evenings, a weariness began to creep into her bones, like a silent, slow-moving fog. Her dreams were plagued by images of water rising over her head, of voices calling her name from somewhere she could not see. Meanwhile, Amara's nights were no more restful. She tossed and turned on her thin mattress, the ceiling boards above her creaking with every breath of wind. Her mother's voice haunted her, echoing in her mind like a ghost. "Remember, my daughter," the old woman had said, her eyes hard with years of bitterness. "She has stolen enough from you. Now you must take back what is rightfully yours." But Amara's heart felt heavy with the burden of her betrayal. Every time she looked at Ifoma's kind face, the memories of their childhood climbing mango trees, laughing under the udala tree, sharing stories under the stars came rushing back. Yet jealousy had woven its sharp claws around her spirit, and every day it seemed to tighten its grip. At the university, where Michael still attended evening classes, the lies Amara had planted had begun to bear bitter fruit. Whenever he thought of Ifaoma, a shadow fell across his mind, a voice that whispered, "She's not what she seems." He found himself questioning her every word, every smile, every small kindness. When she called to ask about a fabric supplier in the city, he answered curtly, making excuses about being busy. His messages grew fewer, his replies colder. One humid evening, Michael sat in his cramped dormitory room, staring at the glow of his phone screen. Memories of Ifoma's laughter, like water rushing over smooth stones, battled with Amara's insidious warnings. "Be careful," Amara had told him. "She's not as innocent as she looks. She's using you. She wants to overshadow you just like she's overshadowed me." He remembered the way she had looked at him, her eyes wide and shining, her lips trembling. "I just want to protect you, Michael," she'd said. That night, he typed a message to Ifoma. "I think we need some space. I've been busy with school and other things. Hope you understand." When she read the message in her small room, lit by a single kerosene lamp, Ifoma felt something crack inside her chest. She stared at the words, unable to comprehend how the warmth she had felt from Michael could disappear so quickly. Tears filled her eyes, blurring the letters. She placed her phone on the small wooden table beside her sewing machine and pressed a hand to her heart. "What is happening to us?" she whispered. The days that followed were a blur of bright fabric and forced smiles. Ifoma poured herself into her work, stitching dreams into dresses for weddings and festivals, refusing to let the pain in her heart dull her spirit. But at night, when the village settled into its hush and the crickets sang, she lay awake, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, wondering if she had done something wrong. Amara, meanwhile, found herself drawn more and more to the darkness that had begun to define her world. The potion the native doctor had given her was supposed to fade Ifaoma's beauty, to dim the glow that had made her the darling of the village. But each time Amara saw Ifaoma in the market, helping an old woman carry a basket or comforting a crying child, that glow seemed brighter than ever. One evening, unable to bear the torment in her chest, Amara sought out the native doctor again. His hut lay at the edge of the village, a place of bones and herbs where charms hung like dead birds from the low thatched roof. Inside, the air smelled of old secrets. The doctor sat cross-legged on a mat of dried grass, his eyes dark as night. "You return," he rasped, his voice like wind over a grave. "But your heart is unsteady." Amara dropped to her knees before him. "The potion, why hasn't it worked? She's still beautiful. People still love her. It's like nothing's changed." Her voice broke on the last word. The doctor's eyes glinted with a knowing light. "The spirits do not always bend easily," he said, lifting a small gourd from a pile of charms. "Sometimes there is protection you do not see." "Protection?" Amara's breath hitched. "She is tied to something ancient, something even I cannot touch without a price." He leaned forward, the bones around his neck rattling. "You must decide, child of envy. Do you wish to continue down this path?" Amara's hands trembled. She thought of Iphioma's smile, of Michael's warmth, of the laughter they had shared under the Udala tree. But then she thought of the shadows that had swallowed her own dreams, of the years she had spent in the background of Iphioma's brilliance. A bitter tear slipped down her cheek. "I want what's mine," she said finally, her voice cold. The doctor nodded slowly. "Then you must go deeper." He reached into a worn leather pouch and drew out a small black charm bound with red thread. "This will not just dim her light," he said softly. "It will turn the heart of her beloved against her. It will make him see her with eyes of disgust and send her from his life." Amara's eyes widened, her heart pounding. "And she will lose everything, and you will stand in her place." The doctor's voice was smooth, hypnotic. "But know this, should her unborn child come into this world before the charm has taken full hold, the curse will turn upon you, and your soul will bear the price." For a moment, the darkness in the hut seemed to close around her like a fist. Amara's breath caught in her throat. A child? If Oma had once confided in her that she dreamed of a family, of children playing under the mango trees. But jealousy had grown too strong. She reached out and took the charm, her fingers trembling. "I will do it," she said, the words tasting like ashes. That night, back at the house she shared with her mother, Amara lay awake staring at the ceiling, the charm clutched in her palm. Outside, the wind rattled the window panes. She could almost hear the laughter of the two girls she and Iphioma used to be innocent and full of dreams. A single tear slid down her cheek. "Forgive me," she whispered into the dark, "but I can't watch you shine while I wither." The next day, Amara traveled to the city where Michael and Iphioma had begun to build a fragile new life. She brought gifts of bright fabrics and a smile that barely hid the storm inside her. Michael welcomed her politely, unaware of the darkness she carried. Late that night, while Iphioma slept peacefully beside Michael, her hand resting gently on her growing belly, Amara crept into their room. Her heart pounded in her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I just want my life back." She slipped the charm beneath Iphioma's pillow. Outside, the night held its breath. In the days that followed, Michael's eyes seemed to change. The warmth that had once lit up his gaze now flickered with suspicion and irritation. "Why do you sleep so much?" he snapped one morning. "Are you the only woman who's ever carried a child?" Iphoma's eyes widened in confusion. "Michael, what's wrong? Why are you speaking like this?" But every day, the man who had once adored her now seemed to despise her. He refused to touch her belly when the baby kicked, refused to sit beside her at meals. Amara watched silently from the corner of the room, her eyes dark with triumph and fear. Inside, Iphoma's heart crumbled. She tried to remember the days when Michael's laughter had been like sunshine, when Amara had been her sister in all but blood. Now, both seemed like strangers. One evening, as the sun set over the city's rooftops, Michael shouted at her in front of Amara. "Leave this house, Iphoma. Go back to your village. Go back where you belong." Tears streamed down her face. She pressed a hand to her swollen belly and gathered her few belongings. Without a word to Amara, who stood in the kitchen doorway, silent as a shadow, she walked out into the night. Her dreams lay in ruins. But somewhere in the darkness, the spirits watched, and destiny waited. The road from the city to Umuchuku was long and dusty, winding through stretches of parched grassland and the occasional cluster of baobab trees. Ifioma walked with slow steps, each one heavy with the burden of betrayal and pain. Her belly, once a source of hope, now felt like a weight dragging her down. Every mile that brought her closer to home felt like a mile further from the life she had dreamed of her bright future. Her marriage, her child's laughter echoing through the rooms of a city house that now belonged to someone else. She reached her father's old compound just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. The place was covered in dust and memories' shadows of laughter and long-forgotten songs that danced on the wind. She opened the rusty gate and stepped inside, greeted by silence. The house felt cold, abandoned, as if the walls themselves had grown tired of waiting for her return. Month after month, she lived alone. No sign of labor came. Her belly grew, stretching her skin until it ached, but the child she carried seemed determined to remain within. Villagers began to whisper behind her back. "Is she truly pregnant?" some asked. "Maybe it's a punishment," others said, shaking their heads. "That girl used to be so proud." Ifoma became a shadow of herself. She fetched water from the stream each morning, the clay pot balanced carefully on her head. She tilled a small garden where nothing seemed to grow. She ate alone, spoke to no one, and at night she lay awake listening to the sigh of the wind through the thatched roof, wondering if Michael ever thought of her. One cloudy morning, she felt so weak that her legs trembled as she made her way down the small hill that led to the stream. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her vision blurred. Halfway down, her strength gave out. She fell flat on the dusty road, belly first. Tears burst from her eyes, tears of exhaustion, of heartbreak, of betrayal. "Mother, where are you?" she whispered. "Come to me. My husband has left me. My own sister took him. This child will not come. Why is this happening to me?" The wind shifted. A hush fell over the village, as if the earth itself had paused to listen. Birds scattered from the trees. Slowly, as if woven from the very air, an old woman appeared beside her. She wore a brown cloak, her face lined with wisdom and sorrow. Her eyes glowed with a light that seemed to pierce the very fabric of the world. She knelt beside Ifioma and placed a gentle hand on her forehead. "Daughter of pain," she said, her voice like honey and thunder. "I heard your cry." Ifioma blinked through her tears. Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I am the voice your mother sent," the old woman replied. "The spirit of mercy, the hand of justice. You have been wronged by those closest to your heart, but now the time of silence is over." She placed her palm over Ifeoma's swollen belly. "You are carrying a child of light. No charm, no evil, can block what destiny has written." The old woman's hand glowed with a warm, golden light, and suddenly pain shot through Ifoma's body, a pain so sharp that she cried out. She felt as though her body was splitting open. Her hands clawed at the dust, tears streaming down her face. The old woman whispered something in a language only the wind understood, then called out loudly, "This child must be born now." Passers-by, drawn by her cries, rushed to help. They carried Ifioma to the small village hospital, a place of peeling paint and kind-hearted nurses who did their best with what little they had. The nurses guided her into a cramped labor room as thunder rumbled outside. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath. With a final, piercing scream, Ifioma gave birth to a strong, healthy baby boy. His cries rang out like a clarion call, echoing down the corridors of the hospital and out into the waiting world. Tears ran down Ifoma's cheeks as the nurse placed the baby in her arms. "It's a boy," the nurse whispered, her own eyes damp with emotion. "A strong, healthy boy." Outside, the old woman stood silently by the door. She nodded once, her eyes gleaming with triumph and tenderness, then turned and walked away. As she disappeared into the wind, the air seemed to lighten, and the oppressive weight that had hung over Ifioma lifted. Back in the city, at the very moment the baby took his first breath, something strange happened to Michael. He was sitting on the edge of his bed with Amara, exhausted and restless, staring into the darkness. Suddenly, he clutched his head, a sharp pain piercing his skull. Memories came rushing back like a flood. Ifi's smile, her laughter, the way she had looked at him when she first told him about the baby. He remembered every cruel word he had spoken, every moment he had turned away. "What have I done?" he whispered, his voice hoarse with guilt. Amara, startled, reached out to touch his arm. "Michael, what's wrong?" she asked, but there was a tremor in her voice. Michael turned to her, his eyes wide and filled with horror. "What did you do to me, Amara? What did you do to Ifioma?" Amara backed away, her face paling. I only wanted to protect you. She was taking everything. I thought," but before she could finish, her eyes rolled back in her head. A scream tore from her lips, raw and primal. She began to tear at her clothes, clawing at her own skin. "He is my husband," she shrieked. "I am the wife. I am the chosen one." People gathered outside the house, whispering and pointing. "Amara has gone mad," they said. "Look at her." Michael stood frozen, his heart breaking. He grabbed his keys and ran to his car, driving through the night without stopping. Dust clung to his clothes and hair, but he did not care. The only thing that mattered was finding Ifioma, his wife, his heart, his future. He reached Umuchuku as dawn broke, the sky awash with pale light. He asked the villagers, his voice trembling, "Where is Ifioma? Please, where can I find her?" They pointed him toward the hospital. He ran down the corridor, his feet pounding the concrete. When he reached the small labor room, he saw her sitting by the window, holding their baby in her arms. Her face was tired but peaceful, a quiet strength radiating from her. "Ifioma," he whispered, dropping to his knees. "My wife, I am sorry. I was blind. I was foolish. Forgive me." Tears streamed down his face as he reached for the baby's tiny hand. Ifioma looked at him for a long moment, her eyes softening. Finally, she nodded and whispered, "Yes, our son." Michael wept with relief, pressing his forehead to her lap. "Thank you for being strong," he murmured. Outside, the news spread like wildfire. The girl who had suffered so much had delivered a miracle child. The woman who had been cursed and betrayed was now blessed. Back in the city, Amara wandered the streets, her hair tangled, her clothes torn, her eyes wild with madness. She babbled about husbands and curses, about being the chosen one. People avoided her, crossing the street when they saw her coming. The once bright star of Umuchuku, now a cautionary tale whispered in the markets and at the riverbanks. Michael built a beautiful house for Ifioma and their son, a place filled with laughter and light. Every evening, he came home from work and held his family close, vowing never to let them go again. One night, as the stars blinked above the quiet village, Ifioma stood on the balcony, her son asleep in her arms. She closed her eyes and let the night air wash over her. Pain had been her companion for so long, but now joy had come to stay. And in Umu Chuku, when the wind rustled through the trees, the elders would tell the tale of two sisters, one consumed by envy, the other saved by love. They would tell the children that no matter how dark the path, light always finds a way. In the weeks that followed, Ifoma's life slowly returned to a semblance of peace. She embraced her role as a mother with a fierce tenderness, holding her son close as if to shield him from every dark wind that had ever swept through her life. Michael, humbled and determined, did everything he could to make amends. He brought her gifts of colorful cloth, helped around the house, and spent long hours playing with their son, his laughter mingling with the child's gurgles. The small tailoring shop that Ifioma had built with her own hands flourished, drawing customers from neighboring villages. Her bright designs and kind heart made her beloved, and the shop became a place of not just business, but of community and hope. Michael often said that her smile alone could mend torn hearts as well as torn cloth. One morning, as they shared a quiet breakfast of yam and groundnut stew, Ifoma looked at Michael with a softness in her eyes. "Michael," she began, "I want Amara to have another chance. She was my sister before the lies. I can't bear the thought of her wandering alone." Michael hesitated, his spoon halfway to his mouth. "She tried to take everything from you," he said carefully. "She nearly destroyed us." "Yes," Ifoma replied, her gaze unwavering, "but I forgave her once. I must forgive her again. She's still lost, and maybe we can help her find her way back." Michael sighed and reached across the table to take her hand. "You are a better person than I am," he said, his voice low. "If you believe she deserves a chance, then we will give it to her." The next day, Ifioma traveled to the city, carrying her son on her back, determined to find Amara. The journey felt both familiar and foreign. The roads that had once led to betrayal now felt like paths toward healing. She found Amara sitting alone by the riverbank, her clothes torn, her eyes hollow. Amara looked up as Ifioma approached, shame flooding her face. She tried to stand but fell back, her legs trembling. "Ifioma," she whispered, "I don't deserve your forgiveness." Tears sprang to Ifeoma's eyes as she reached out her hand. "Amara, you are my sister. Blood or not, you will always be my sister. Come home with me." Amara's tears fell freely as she clung to Ifeoma's outstretched hand, the bond between them fragile but unbroken. Back in Umuchuku, Ifioma set up a small corner in her shop for Amara to learn tailoring. "Start with the simple stitches," she instructed gently. "One day you will create your own designs." Amara worked diligently, her eyes focused and her hands steady. She learned to cut and shape, to thread and hem. The customers, at first wary, soon began to accept her, drawn by her humility and newfound kindness. Months passed, and Ifoma's business blossomed even more. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Michael approached Ifoma with a glint in his eyes. "Iffy," he said, "I've been thinking. Your talent deserves a bigger stage. There's a renowned fashion design school in the city. I want you to enroll. Let's expand your skills and build something even greater." Ifeoma's heart lifted, but her first thought was of Amara. "Can Amara come too?" she asked softly. "She's part of this journey now." Michael paused, his gaze softening. "Of course," he said. "We'll do this together." A week later, they packed their belongings and left Umuchuku behind, heading to the city with dreams in their hearts and a quiet determination in their steps. The city bustled with life, its streets teeming with color and sound. The fashion school loomed tall and grand, its glass doors shining like a promise. Inside, the rooms smelled of new fabrics and fresh ink, the air alive with creativity. Ifeoma and Amara enrolled side by side, their names signed on the same page, their destinies once again intertwined. Day after day, Ifeoma guided Amara through the basics: how to measure, how to cut, how to sew a perfect curve. Fashion speaks in silence, she would say, showing her how to shape dreams from thread. In the evenings, Michael would greet them with dinner and stories, his laughter filling the small apartment they shared. Amara, once the girl of envy and darkness, began to smile again. Months later, the fashion school held its graduation ceremony. Ifeoma and Amara stood proudly on the stage, certificates in hand, their eyes shining with a quiet triumph. But it wasn't the end of their journey, it was the beginning. As a surprise, Michael revealed a gleaming new fashion house in a bustling district. The building sparkled with glass doors, golden embroidery, and mannequins dressed in vibrant colors. "It's yours," he said, handing the keys to Ifeoma. Tears filled her eyes. "It's ours," she said, turning to Amara. "We built this together." Amara wept, her hands trembling. It was the first time in her life that joy came without bitterness. They named the shop Twin Threads, a nod to the bond that neither envy nor curses could ever fully sever. In the months that followed, their designs graced the bodies of politicians' wives, celebrities, and brides from distant lands. Their names became known in circles they had only dreamed of as children under the Udala tree. One day, a sleek black car stopped in front of their fashion house. A tall woman stepped out, her heels clicking on the pavement. "I heard about you two from the First Lady herself," she said with a smile. "I need an outfit for a gala in France." Ife and Amara exchanged a look, their smiles wide and genuine. From the dusty roads of Chukwu to the red carpets of the world, the girls who had once argued over fish heads now walked the paths of queens. But even as their star rose, the wind carried new whispers, an old lesson that jealousy never dies, only sleeps. In a world where light and shadow danced hand in hand, destiny had one more twist waiting for success filled every corner of the Twin Threads fashion house. From the moment its doors opened, customers poured in, eager to wear the designs that had made the sisters famous. The walls of the shop gleamed with awards and photos of elegant women draped in vibrant cloth, their smiles lighting up the pages of glossy magazines. Ifeoma, now known for her creativity and grace, carried her growing belly with pride. Each day, as she watched the staff cut, stitch, and fit, she felt her son kicking a reminder of the battles she had won and the new life she was about to bring forth. Michael stood by her side every evening, his hands gentle on her back, his eyes filled with hope for their future. But Amara, despite her place in this new chapter, found herself once again overshadowed by her sister's light. Each time she saw Michael brush Ifeoma's hair from her face, each time she heard him call her name with that deep tenderness, Amara's heart twisted. The laughter that had once come so easily now sounded forced. Late one evening, after the last customer had left, Amara sat alone in the fitting room, a half-finished dress draped across her lap. Her reflection in the mirror seemed like a stranger, her eyes dark with longing, her mouth a thin line of regret. "Why can't I have what she has?" she whispered. In the stillness of that moment, memories flooded her. The village river where she and Ifeoma had once shared mangoes, the laughter under the Udala tree, the promises of never letting anything come between them. But that was before, before jealousy had poisoned her heart. One night, Amara's fear turned to desperation. She watched Iphioma and Michael at dinner, sharing jokes and gentle touches, their love a beacon she could never reach. A seed of darkness, once small, now grew wild inside her. What if Michael grows tired of me? What if they push me out? Sleep eluded her. As the city hummed outside their apartment, she made a decision she had sworn she would never make again. The next morning, she packed a small bag and told Iphioma and Michael she needed to visit the village. Iphioma, always trusting, hugged her tightly. "Take care, Amara," she said. Michael nodded politely, though unease flickered in his eyes. Amara's journey took her deep into the heart of the forest beyond Umuchuku, where the trees whispered secrets and the air felt heavy with spirits. She followed a narrow path until she reached a compound draped in bones and charms, red cloths fluttering in the wind like warnings. Inside, an old man sat cross-legged, his skin as dark as night and his eyes sharp as a hawk's. He wore a necklace of small skulls and beads. "You come seeking power," he said without looking up. Amara fell to her knees. "I want her husband," she said. "I want her life everything. I'm tired of being in her shadow." The old man's laugh was dry and cold. "You asked to take your sister's husband and her unborn child's place," he said, his voice like cracked earth. "But there is a price." "I will pay it," she whispered, desperation in every syllable. He reached into a worn gourd, drawing out a charm tied with red thread. "Place this under her pillow for 3 nights," he instructed. "Her husband's heart will turn to you, and she will fade from his life. But if the child is born before the charm is complete, it will turn against you, and your soul will pay." Amara's breath caught. "She's still pregnant," she said quickly. "I have time." The old man gave her a long, silent stare. "May fate favor you," he said finally. She returned to the city the next day, her heart thudding with fear and excitement. That night, while Michael and Iphioma slept, she crept into their room and placed the charm beneath Iphioma's pillow. Her hands trembled, but she told herself it was her right, she deserved love too. The next morning, Michael woke up, his brow furrowed. "Why are you so lazy?" he snapped at Iphioma. "You eat and sleep like you're the only woman carrying a child." Iphioma blinked in confusion, pain clouding her eyes. "Michael, what's wrong?" she asked softly. But every day his words grew sharper, his heart colder. Amara watched from the doorway, a smile playing on her lips. Each night, the charm beneath Iphioma's pillow grew stronger, weaving its darkness around Michael's heart. Until one night, during a terrible argument, Michael shouted, "Leave this house, Iphioma. Go back to your village and stay there." Iphioma, her eyes filled with tears, gathered her few clothes and left without a word. Amara stood in the hallway, silent as a shadow. Back in Umuchuku, Iphioma returned to her father's old compound. Her belly grew larger, but no labor came. Months passed, and the women of the village whispered that she carried a punishment instead of a child. One morning, too weak to carry her water jar, she collapsed on the dusty path. As the sky darkened, an old woman appeared beside her. "Child of pain," she said gently, "you carry a child of light. No charm can destroy what destiny has written." She placed a warm hand on Iphioma's belly. Pain shot through her, and she screamed. The old woman whispered words that only the wind understood. "This child must be born now." In the village hospital, thunder rolled outside as Iphioma gave birth to a strong, healthy baby boy. His cry rang out, filling the room with hope. At that same moment in the city, Michael clutched his head, memories flooding back. He saw every lie Amara had whispered, every cruel word he had spoken. "What have I done?" he groaned. He turned to Amara, her face pale with shock. "What did you do to me?" Before she could answer, she began to scream, her eyes rolling back. "He's mine. I'm the wife. I'm the chosen one," she shrieked. Madness claimed her, and she ran into the street, her hair wild, her voice a haunting echo of all that had gone wrong. Michael ran. He drove through the night, arriving in Chukwu as the sun rose. He found Ifeoma at the hospital, their son in her arms. "Forgive me," he cried, tears streaming down his face. Ifeoma looked at him, her heart heavy, but she nodded. "You are home now," she whispered. Back in the city, Amara wandered the streets, lost to the world. And so the story of two sisters, one consumed by jealousy, the other strengthened by forgiveness, became a lesson told for generations. No charm, no lie, no darkness can erase the light written in destiny's hand.